sound scared straight program.
You're lying.
Oh. Scott the Madman Robbins, how are you doing today, sir?
Good.
Thank you for joining me here live at FXBG Public Radio.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
My favorite studio in town.
I was just reading about Cobra.
Cobra?
Yeah, the ruthless terrorist organization determined to rule the world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know we went live. I was sitting there doing my own little world. Sorry.
When we did the Scott versus Scott a couple weeks ago,
Mm-hmm.
you were talking about something. We were talking about Jesus, and I said Cobra Kai, and I meant to say Cobra. And then you were like, I don't know what dojo Jesus belonged to.
Sounds like something I would say. Absolutely. Yeah. So the Scott versus Scott thing, we were supposed to do that last week, but you're feeling under the weather.
Yeah, I hurt my knee. Don't say feeling under the weather. People are going to assume the worst.
Oh, okay.
You can't not disclose the medical issues now because people are going to assume the scarlet letter.
Okay. Comedian Scott Wharton here. He pulled a Tom Segura.
Yeah, I hurt my knee.
He hurt his knee. Yeah, I guess. Show him.
I hurt my knee. This is the brace.
Steven Crowder. Steven Crowder recently hurt his knee as well.
I'd be alright though. You know.
Oh yeah.
I bounced back. I'm not even 30 yet. It's German engineering. Volkswagen built this knee. So.
Krauts, they know how to make them.
Yeah. So. And my brakes got locked up. Is what happened.
That's why it'll happen from time to time.
It will happen.
You're playing with a dog, weren't you, Joe Biden?
I was playing with the dog. Okay. Why?
Did he hurt his foot by playing with it or like tripping on his dog or something?
I don't know. Do they have a dog? He has a dog at the White House? Is there a dog again at the White House?
I think they're like supposed to have a dog.
Trump didn't have a dog.
If you get the White House, it comes with a dog.
That's probably my biggest problem with Trump.
He didn't have a dog?
Yeah. Didn't have a dog at the White House.
No.
He's doggish.
Explains why it was a one-termer.
Yep. See, that explains it.
That's the number one reason why people didn't vote for him.
Do you think that he could have swung the election if he bought a dog? Like,
what kind of dog though? It depends on the dog.
That's true.
Like there's a little Pomeranian or something like that. He carried around in his purse or something like that.
No, it had to be a more Americana.
Look how cute my dog is.
It had to be like an American bull, a golden retriever.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, he loves gold. Everything gold.
Sure, that makes more sense for him. But you know what? He'd have to hire somebody to follow his dog around all day and like play with the dog to get him to do cute stuff so that they can clip it and put it on his YouTube channel or his Twitter feed or something like that. So look how cute my dog is. Don't you want to vote for me? Don't you want to vote for me? Look how cute that little dog is.
I feel like he's like, remember that show like Whammy? Just things like that. You know what I'm talking about? How he goes like, stop! He's like doing like...
No, he's always playing an accordion.
How big do you want your dick to be? Like,
no, he's
stop.
He's like Weird Al Yankovic, always playing an accordion.
How big of a hug do you want? Stop.
You know Napoli, when the moon hits your eye like a big pizza pie.
Do you want to hang out and listen to Dean Martin after this?
Dean Martin? No, thank you.
No?
No, not a fan of that old stuff.
You don't like Dean Martin?
Nah. I mean, unless it's like old jazz or old rhythm and blues. I really don't like pop from that era.
What old jazz do you like?
Oh, you know, just like the obvious one. Coltrane, shit like that. Just
Blue Train, Coltrane is like my go-to.
Yeah. It's, yeah. But I mean, even then, I find jazz to be like musical wanking in many ways. And then, you know, once I'm done watching the porn, and there's not enough jazz underlying porn soundtracks, you know? It should be, because it's kind of along the same thing. But
you're just watching the wrong kind of porn.
Maybe. Mom always gets trapped near the sofa or something. But
that's the type of porn you watch?
Yeah, sometimes.
The one with the sink is like, there's a couple of them that's like, how did she get trapped in the dryer?
Yeah, it's like, why?
She's not that thin.
Well, it's just, I couldn't believe my mother would be trying to fix something.
Yeah. I'm not saying that I wouldn't, you know.
Oh, that's not going to work, huh?
Dude, that's awesome.
That's a trip. Enjoy the trip.
That is trippy.
I don't know, maybe we should leave it there.
We could make some content with that.
Absolutely. I'll just keep adding them.
We'll brainstorm on what we could do with this as we go along the show. It's fun.
Yeah, it's like with Green Lantern. After the end of a mission with Green Lantern, it's like, hey, I got a case of Yingling, or Heineken, or Beck's. Help yourself. And he's like, oh. Flash thought it was a real beer.
What kind of cheap special effects could we do with a bottle like that? If we didn't have the label on it, right?
Yeah.
It would just look like, and then you like shook the bottle up and it squirted. Like it would look like, I mean, you can still kind of see that.
Yeah.
I guess if you adjusted the pitch and stuff in there, right? If you adjusted the things in the computer, that you could make it so that it's not showing the bottle as much.
I think it looks cool right where it is.
I mean, it does.
Is that this line here?
It looks kind of ethereal.
I know. Quit messing with it. Quit referring to it.
People who are listening to this podcast are going to be like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Yeah, what are they talking about? It's like, hey, check out the YouTube.
Yeah, that's true. Check out the YouTube. What do you think about Patreon?
I think that some people make money on it. I wish people would go to my Patreon, patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio, become a patron. And if I get enough patrons, then I'll be able to provide stuff that is specifically for patrons. But right now, most all of my content is going out for free on YouTube and through podcasts and so forth. And so I don't have a whole lot of patrons right now. But I do like the idea of the fact that, you can get people. It's kind of like a Subscribestar, or what's the one that all the girls are using? OnlyFans. I think that's fine and so forth, but I mean, it's like I guess every teenage girl wants to be a porn star at one point now, and so I don't really get that. I don't think it's good for so many women to be getting into dabbling in porn. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's a good idea.
I think if you or I,
but if you're a creator,
I think if you or I fell down the right rabbit hole on the internet, that we could find a market for selling like our dirty socks or underwear.
I think I would need a few more patrons. I think I would have more patrons, because somebody who really wants to get a hold of my socks would probably go over to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio and be constantly sending me messages like, send me your socks, or I'm going to quit being a patron.
That's true.
So.
I could only hope that somebody would ask me to send socks.
Anyone who would fetishize me is obviously crazy. I'm not attractive.
You gotta love yourself first.
I do love myself, but I don't love myself because I'm attracted to myself. I don't look in the mirror and say, "Damn, I want to get behind you." You know what I mean?
I'd fuck me.
Would you fuck me? But wait, was she a creeping old fat person? I worked so hard on that one little phrase, trying to get that right.
You did a good job with it.
I know. I practiced. A lot of lonely nights. When you're ugly, and a teenage boy just sitting there watching Silence of the Lambs over rewinding. People always make jokes about the most paused scenes in VHS movies where it's skip, and it cuts into a shower scene, all of a sudden skip, because the tape's all worn out in that area because of all the pausing. Yeah. That's that's what I would do is those scenes, that scene where he said, "Wait, was she a creepy old fat person?" That's where it skipped on my VHS copy of Silence of the Lambs. It's like, was that good dude rubbing one out to... I'm like, no, I was trying to get the voice right.
Why were you trying to get the voice right?
I don't know.
Were you trying to get your monologue together for your...
I was an outcast as a kid and stuff like that. And I kind of I leaned into it.
You're saying you related to Buffalo Bill?
No. It's just if people think you're weird or you're psycho or something like that.
Embrace it?
They'll.
Embrace it?
Yeah, well, I leaned into it because, it's like, oh, they're going to leave me alone if they think I'm nuts.
Sure.
It's so, I'm not a very social person. When all these lockdown measures came into order, it's like, they're just like, don't come within 6 feet of people. I'm like, no problem. I've been doing that all my life. It's like, I don't like people get close to me. Even Seinfeld did a bit about close talkers and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, the close talkers.
Yeah. It's like, I am so glad that era is over. Because I've worked with people, especially Europeans, and stuff like that. People who have lived in Europe and the Middle East and Africa and stuff like that, they'll get close when they speak to you. And so it's way different in America because there is a lot of space between Americans as opposed to other places in the world. And so I'm so glad it's they're telling people to stay 6 feet apart. I don't think we should all be masked and sanitizing everything, but I do like the idea. It's get away from me. I'm kind of standoffish as it is. I'm not really social or outgoing. I don't you ever play The Sims?
Yeah, I love The Sims.
Yeah, and just like anybody who's played The Sims, the first character you make is yourself. And I've made the character accurately and stuff like that. My social bar is real low. So all I did is I made my sim, and all I do is I got a job, I go to work, I go and make my money, I come back home, and I play video games, and cry because I didn't have a relationship and go to bed. Right? That's all my character did. And it was eerie. It was like, holy shit, this thing is spot on. Right? But then in jobs, you needed to get friends in order to progress in your career. And so I got to a point where it's just my character couldn't deal with all these friends because I'm just so sick of dealing with people. It's I started starting fights with people because I was like, why are you always around my house? I need 5 friends, and the 6 of you are always around here, and I have all 5 friends.
You can't even socialize properly on Sims, is what you're trying to tell me.
Correct.
you're fit to do a podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think that you have to be a sociable person in order to be an entertainer. You know, I think there's a lot of antisocial people who are entertainers.
That's true, yeah.
You know, do you think, like Bo Burnham, we were talking about him earlier. It's like, I don't think that guy likes people coming up and talking to him. Mm-hmm. I believe that guy wants a space.
Right.
And I think that people who really create, in many ways, kind of need that space to create. Like, I have a hard time creating here in the studio because there's so much going on. There's always there's a show every night and so forth. There's always people coming and going. I couldn't get in a corner with my laptop and write because there's too much stuff going on. Plus, when people are talking to me, I don't like ignoring them and keeping them pay them proper attention they deserve. And so I like the isolation, and that isolation helps my ideas grow into, like, you know, interesting ideas and so forth.
Same for me. I find some of my best times come from isolation and
silence.
Absolutely.
Silence, absolutely.
Yeah.
I used to write all the books I wrote that are on Amazon. Check them out for download. Amazon.com. Search for the author, Scott L. Robbins, with 2 T's and 2 B's. Got to do it. And so,
tell Audible I sent you. I'll put a link in the.
There's Audible's not available for that. I haven't read those things, recorded them yet. Anyway, but when I wrote those listening to music, and I think I could have written better in those books if I hadn't been. And so now when I write specifically in silence, just staring at my screen. Because I remember some of the best stuff that I wrote when I was in school, because I was like in creative writing in school, and I did like Lit Mag and all that. And so it was just, I'm sitting there bored in class. They're talking about stuff because that's what high school was for me. It's like going over the same stuff over and over again for a couple of weeks until all these idiots got it. You know, and I got it the first couple of days. And so I'm just like sitting there staring at a blank sheet of paper, and it's like, what am I going to do? And it's like, I'm going to write. So I just started writing. I started writing poetry and stuff like that. And some of my best stuff come out of times like that, where I'm just bored because everyone else around me is dumb, and I can isolate myself. That's just, I think that a lot of creators, people who create, they create in a way like that. Your style is different though, because it's off the cuff and stuff like that. You go in your room and you write your jokes and you save them for your sets and so forth. Mm-hmm. But the way you do your shows, see, I'm not a comedian. I don't go out and do sets. I'm too antisocial for that. But I mean, when I'm writing, I write for my show, and so a lot of what I say on my show is scripted. It's something I've written up before.
You mean like the way I do my podcast, how it's just off the cuff?
Yeah, it's off the cuff. And
well, different guests, I do different things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like with you, I mean, you're my friend. I see you all the time and stuff. When I come on with you, it's more natural and easy for me to have a conversation. I don't really need to have like talking points written down for me.
Right.
But there's definitely other people that I've had on, and I'm like, all right, I want to make sure that I talk about these things and ask these questions because I did this research about this person before you know what I mean?
Yes. I've had other like co-hosts on shockmonkeyradio, and right now I've been doing it on my own for over a year now. And I'm not playing footsie with you, sorry. It's but when I had a co-host, I wouldn't have to write as much. Mm-hmm. But now that I'm doing the show alone, I have to write a lot more for the show because
when you have a co-host, you can lean on them more.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and plus, sometimes they wanna bring up a topic or something like that. It's like absolutely.
I should probably do a couple podcasts alone, just because I feel uncomfortable doing it alone.
Yeah.
But I know the more that I just force myself to talk into the void, some gems might come out of it. So. Right when I was graduating high school, I'd been writing a lot of stream of consciousness stuff, and a lot of people in my lit mags said, "This is really good. This shows your evolution as a writer and so forth." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." And so it's like since then I've gotten a lot better at the stream of consciousness kind of thing, and so a lot of these rants that I do on my show, it's stream of consciousness. Like the first half hour of my show is just a lot of my stream of consciousness, how I think about things, and whatever I'm thinking about, whether it's G.I. Joe or Star Wars or Back to the Future. It's like I can sit there and it's like I was thinking about Back to the Future the other day, and X, Y, Z. It's like Marty McFly had these coins, and these coins were obviously from 1985, but he dropped these 1985 coins on the counter, and the way that they ring on the counter, because they're made out of different material than the coins were back in the 1945 to 55 region, where Marty McFly was at that time, the guy who takes most of his payment in coins during the 50s would notice the sound of those coins would be different than the sound of real
legitimate currency and would have looked at them and saw 1976 on it or something like that and say, this is not a real coin or WTF.
Right. And he wouldn't have thought he was a time traveler. He would have thought he was counterfeiting.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So it's stuff like that
Marty
gets in my mind.
McFly would have had the U.S. Marshals on his ass. It would have been a whole thing.
Exactly.
Different movie.
Yeah, different movie altogether. And so those are the kind of things that are in my mind, and I've got good at explaining or accessing the part of my mind that has that kind of stuff in me since high school. And so I have this ability to really tap into that and have people like come along with me in this journey of my mind.
Man, do you know how I mean, Don't Be a Menace to South Central.
Oh, of course.
Scary Movie, Airplane, Naked Gun, all
Wayans
those
Brothers,
all those parody movies.
Oh yeah.
We should write a parody movie that's like a parody of time travel movies. And that should be the trope, it should be like the main plot point, is that he goes back in time and uses that coin. Yeah. It's clearly a parody of that moment. Yeah.
Time travel arguments are some of the most fun arguments, because they always kind of begin at a time travel movie. Like a friend of mine and I, we had this argument about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Uh-huh.
When they go back in time, right, and they took Lincoln from the Oval Office to go with them to do their presentation, and San Dimas in their year. I forget what year it was. But they took Abraham Lincoln. They would have returned to a future, like in Back to the Future, where Abraham Lincoln mysteriously disappeared from the White House at some point.
For however long.
Yeah. No. He mysteriously disappeared because he's not there. They plucked him out of history, and so history would continue along those lines. And so, with the late '80s year that they went to, they would be in a timeline where Abraham Lincoln mysteriously disappeared, and so the country would be way different.
Did they never give him back?
Yes, but the future they would have gone to, because Lincoln wasn't a part of that reality anymore. He was taken
but for
out of
how
time.
long would Lincoln have not been a part of that reality if they brought him back to that reality?
That's what I mean. Because did you even pay attention to Back to the Future? Because they would go into reality.
I thought we were talking about Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Right, but it's all the same logic when it comes to time travel. They would have went into a future where Abraham Lincoln mysteriously disappeared and showed up at San Dimas, California in the 80s.
Do you think Einstein would use time travel movies for his arguments?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I saw Jordan Peterson use The Lion King to talk about the shadow self.
Oh yeah, it's funny because we don't understand. We don't know what somebody like Albert Einstein would be in a world of the information age. You know, he may get into, like, Albert Einstein may just all of a sudden get into Call of Duty or something like that. Next thing you know, Albert Einstein's it's like, oh, I really own him, yeah. You know, he's just like killing it in Call of Duty. He's getting high kill death ratio and so forth.
Right, that's true. Yeah, because I've brought up the topic before. Like, man, do you think because I listen to I listen to a fair amount of dubstep and shit like that. You've heard me listen to it. But I've talked to you about it before, you and EK the DJ, FXBG Public Radio. Follow them on all social media platforms. I've talked to you all about the idea of, like, Bach or Beethoven. If, like, they were around now, what kind of music would they make music like this?
Right.
What kind of music would they make?
Right.
And then you brought up the Bill and Ted thing where he goes to the store and he's playing with, like, the synthesizer, the keyboards and shit.
Where would he go? Yeah.
But then you bring up that concept if that type of genius grew up in today's era with today's accessibilities and
what would they do? And technology.
What would they do? Mm-hmm. Would they still make music or would they?
Well, that's a fun idea from the Bill and Ted argument. It's like, if you went back in time, you can capture people from history and give them access to our technology today.
Right.
Who would you take? You know, that's a whole different argument altogether.
Tesla.
I don't know. The world would be like, we'd all have UFOs by now. You know.
We'd have UFOs by now.
By now.
We'd be in the Intergalactic Commission. We probably already are in the Intergalactic whatever council, but it's just we don't know about it.
Yeah. Well. Sure.
The man knows about it, but we don't.
Well, do you think of that like there would be some sort of intergalactic council or government within the galaxy?
You know.
Do you think that they would come up with ideas like treaties like ours?
Since I'm a reflection of the universe, that means the Earth is also a reflection of the universe, which means if the Earth has a United Nations, it doesn't mean the universe has, like, some planetary council and maybe even a transdimensional council.
Council of Ricks, absolutely. I mean, who knows? Who knows? I think it's entirely possible that if such a thing exists, that we are too technologically naive to be a contributing factor in a galactic council. Because just like if you come up with like a United Nations, everyone kind of brings something to the table. You know, the U.S. it's a ton of money and troops. You know, and so and that's the whole idea, is that with the council, it's like to get a seat on the council or a veto rights on the UN. You know, you got to bring something big to the table, and so usually it's money and troops. And so you would have to have that capability in some sort of intergalactic council in order to to be a player on that stage.
Right. So you just, I don't know, what do we have to offer?
Yeah, we're the Republic.
What do we have to offer our alien overlords in the Intergalactic Council?
Yeah, we are the Republic of Congo in the intergalactic world. You know, so I mean,
according to Sumerian belief, gold. We're here to mine gold for the Anunnaki.
Sure.
They need it to fix their atmosphere.
Yeah, gold is rare. Yeah.
There's definitely some other reasons. Maybe our souls are being mined for experiences by some sort of
possibly
simulation machine.
Possibly.
And then it just keeps running us through the simulation machine and see what would happen if maybe God hasn't even created Earth yet. It's just the creator is still running the simulation to see what would happen.
Well, it'd be cool is like when you die is like you take off your VR goggles and you're just like, I don't think I like this game.
This game's fucking heavy, man.
It's long. It takes forever to play this game. But you get to find out your scores.
So, what's your podcast about for the people who don't know?
Like I said, it's mostly, excuse me,
the rantings of Scott.
Yeah, it's like one of my books, The Ravings of a Madman.
But you talk a lot about, like, America and political things, current events. Things.
Yeah, I love my country. You know, I'm conservative. I'm not,
I'm not one of these progressive Nancy boys.
Well, not the way I'd say it.
Trying to pierce my nipples.
Andrew Cuomo.
Listen to Elton John and Queen.
Hey, I love Queen. Love Elton John.
Okay.
All right. And so, I mean...
Love pierced nipples.
On women. Yeah, I talk about conservative things. I'm an American, I care about that stuff. And so if it's, like, on my mind, and politics really hasn't been on my mind lately because, frankly, I'm afraid where things are going. I don't even know if my YouTube channel is going to be around much longer because they're cracking down on people like us, The Democrats are in power, they're starting to force us all to... they're trying to censor people, like left and right, and I mean, I guess I'm small enough that I'm not noticeable enough. I'm no Steven Crowder, I'm no Ben Shapiro, and those are the kind of names that are on all of their lips.
But those algorithms that are watching our videos and stuff still have to be listening for keywords, and trigger words, and stuff.
Absolutely,
like that. I worry about my page getting because of the Scott versus Scott podcast, and not even that, the other podcasts I've done with. Fucking conspiracy theorists who are QAnon people that I've had on, talking about Bill Gates and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And just different other guests that I've had, talking to you about, and you talking about your conservative ideas.
Absolutely.
And then you just say a trigger word, and then I say it back, and then now we've both said it, even though we're not using it in a negative connotation or a context to fucking hurt anybody. It still gets flagged.
But
now you're shadow banned.
And that's what irritates me. That's what makes me mad and feeling so patriotic is because...
So censorship is real, man.
Well, I mean, these private companies who control our modern speech these days are now dictating or abridging our rights as citizens of the United States. And I'm angry at politicians for not fighting harder against big tech, because like Parler, you know about Parler, right?
Yeah.
Amazon straight up shut them down. And shut them down because of big wigs like Facebook and Twitter saying, hey, we got competition. A bunch of people are leaving our platforms to go to Parler, and they shut down competition. They're always like, if you want to spout your conspiracy nonsense or your right-wing nonsense, go make your own platform. And that's what conservatives did. They went and made their own platform called Parler. And they all went there. Everyone was mad that they were leaving their platforms to go to Parler, and so they shut down Parler.
Yeah, and they shut it down because they're saying that people used Parler as a gathering for.
No, it's like most people use Facebook and Twitter. They were using Facebook and Twitter to coordinate. A third of those people were using Parler.
And a lot of people that went probably, went in groups from different places.
Well, absolutely. Like I use, plus people use multiple.
And then you just get that herd mentality. When
multiple apps. I use Instagram, Facebook.
It wasn't a secret Twitter. That they were having the event. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. But I mean, it wasn't trying to shut down free speech, because after all these riots that happened over the summer happened, nobody was calling for somebody like Facebook and Twitter to shut down these places, because these people were burning down the cities and using Facebook apps or Twitter apps in order to coordinate those attacks. It was only after the January 6th attack where we have to shut down Parler because they were using that to cause that kind of violence. That is the only kind of violence that happened over the 2020 that has been scrutinized, and that irritates me. That bothers me. It's like you want to say is like it's a bunch of liberal peoples can burn down their own cities, but a bunch of conservative people go to the Capitol. It's like, oh, we got to do something all of a sudden. Just the double standard is obvious, and if you're not paying attention,
well, it goes both ways too. With those instances, because you have one group of people who's met with tear gas and rubber bullets, and one people who's not. Yeah, there was the woman who died. There was a couple people who died.
I mean, people are going to die in that kind of fracas, no matter what.
I'm sure the number of people who died throughout the riot, last year's demonstrations and burning of Portland and every other fucking city, I'm sure people died during those too.
Well, I've been to enough concerts to know when a bunch of people get together somewhere, a bunch of stupid shit happens. And I think people need to start being able to go to concerts again so that they can remember what happens when a bunch of dumbass people get in one place. Because a bunch of stupid shit happens.
Just so they can get their fucking energy out.
Yeah, I mean,
the shit with all the social distancing and the weird stuff and all the closures and curfews. If you want to fucking be out, be out. If you don't want to be out because of COVID, then you're not going to be out. You know what I'm saying?
That's the
way it should be.
It's your agency.
It's like wearing a condom when fucking AIDS is going around.
But it's like
you're still going to have sex or not.
But it's like the government coming into your house and saying, "Are you about to have sex? You better wear a condom."
Yeah, I know. Oh, I know. I'm saying
that's the concept.
Now, yeah.
No, it's the same concept to me. It's like they're telling you that you cannot be responsible enough to protect yourself from some sort of illness. And when they come out with this mandate, it's like everyone, like a mask mandate or some absurd fascist stuff like that. They're telling you that they don't think you're smart enough to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
And that is anti-American to me.
Preach.
I wish I could get on a rhythm like I was earlier. I know I went all America all over everybody's ass, but
you did go America all over everybody's ass when we were out front earlier.
And because I mean, I was there for the birth of the information age. I saw it come into being. I was born in 1977. I went in the Navy when I was in '95, and that's when like America Online was booming and stuff like that, and it was really starting to gain some traction. I went in the Navy. I became a radioman, and that's working in computers and communications and stuff like that. And so I watched the internet become born. I had before social media, before MySpace and Friendster and all that stuff, I had my own webpage. I bought a domain name, and I would put news articles on there, and that's where I'd write and stuff like that. And a couple times I got like thousands of hits because I'd write. It was during the DC Sniper. When the DC Sniper came through, I wrote an article about that. And I got a ton of hits because, I lived in Fredericksburg area at the time. Or that's what I put in because I was in the Navy. But when that was going on, it's like I got a ton of hits on my website. I was real proud of that. It's like, oh, maybe my website will take off. But it did. And so, and then social media came out, and I saw all this happen. And I was just like, the internet is just because there is, anyone can buy a domain name and have their own webpage and write their articles and put whatever they want on their webpage. It's just like I did. And I just like, what a wonderful thing to happen to the First Amendment. And I thought about it, and I was just like, this could take over the world in terms of human democracy. It's like when it comes to especially Western democracies or republics like ours, because the idea of the internet being able to reach people like, say, in China, where they have access to all the information that we have. And I'm sure there's people who smuggle in, information that the state doesn't allow them into China. And this allows them to educate themselves, let them see how the rest of the world lives, and that there are these concepts like freedom and individuality and stuff like that. And it's like, and that's why there's firewalls between like countries like China and Iran and stuff like that, is because they don't want our Western influence in, because they consider it a threat. They consider it a threat because the ideas that are embedded in the U.S. Constitution gives every single American citizen, freedom, individuality, their own agency, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Every single person. And if that idea reaches every single person on this planet, that's a good thing, because
but it's dangerous for the powers that be.
It's dangerous for the totalitarian regimes that hold sway over the people, and so that these regimes, they don't want to lose their control over the people, and whether they use their control, use it via religion or economics, or something, or like wage slaves and stuff like that. We were talking about Africa or China or something like that. You're gonna allow them. They don't want to lose their control over these people because they can keep them where they are and make their profit, make their riches off of those people. And so it's frustrating to me because they don't want this idea to get out because it could topple global oppression. And and that's why so many governments all over the world are terrified of the U.S. Constitution. We are one of the youngest countries in the world, but we are like a global power, like the leading global power in the world, and that's debatable with China. Okay, but we've achieved this by different means. The U.S. has achieved that means by being a leading global power by using freedom and free enterprise. China has done it through totalitarianism. It's like their people are suffering way less than American people are suffering. Their poor are skinny. Our poor are fat, okay?
Right.
And so I think that this just shows that a rising tide will raise all ships, and these totalitarian governments are going to get left behind and eventually toppled by the idea of freedom. In the 70s, Iran was a really kind of cool place. It was very progressive, very very well known, and then there was a revolution, and then the hardliners, the right wingers as we call them. They took over the power of the government, and now it's just like it's a theocracy now.
How long before we're at war with China or Russia?
Warfare has changed.
Yeah.
I think we are in a new type of Cold War.
A technological one.
Yeah,
a data based.
Yeah, people don't want to commit troops to something like this. It's like China is stealing intellectual property. They're expanding their territorial control by like just occupying. They just move their battleships or something somewhere, their aircraft carriers somewhere. And it's like this is ours now. And they'll do it by it's like we don't recognize Tibet, or is it Tibet? Yeah, Tibet. We don't recognize Tibet. That's part of China, and they do it diplomatically, or they'll like attack the United States by stealing. Industrial espionage, stealing intellectual property, or they'll do it by subversion, by spreading communist propaganda among university students. That's an old trick they've been doing for decades.
They're also out there building islands.
Absolutely, and I think that they're well within their rights to do that. If you build an island, I guess that's yours. So I mean that's just that makes sense to me. But when they start taking over somebody else's domain, that's a different story to me. And so it's not so much that anyone's sending troops anywhere, except for like in Russia. In Russia, they're still kind of doing conventional warfare where they'll just move troops into a place and this is ours. I'm not saying it's not happening in other third world countries like Africa and stuff like that, but for most of the like first world players on the globe, it's a matter of industrial espionage and regular espionage, and that's pretty much it. It's this warfare of like hearts and minds. They're trying to, because our internet, because our freedom of speech has reached a global level, they have stepped up their game in terms of trying to subvert our people in this country, like college students, with ideas of socialism and capitalism in order to, not capitalism, socialism and communism, in order to subvert the younger generation of Americans so they grow up thinking it's like, hey, we should be a socialist country because it works so good for every other one that ever existed. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? It's like you're being fed lies about the past and what different governments have experienced. People talk about Hitler all the time, but they don't talk about Stalin at all, or Pol Pot. When you're talking about body counts, it's like, I don't know why Hitler gets this, why he's lifted up. I think it's because there's so much film of them. You know, it's like there's not a whole lot of film of Pol Pot or Stalin. You know, and Stalin was erasing people. I mean, he was photoshopping before Photoshop existed. You know, when people offended him or pissed him off, he'd have them killed and have them erased from photographs in like the 40s and 50s. You know?
Yeah.
It's like
a lot of his tactics were 1980, like when George Orwell wrote 1984, it was, he used, he based it off Stalin.
And if we want to compare it to what's happening digitally today, you know, I guess he was ahead of his time. You know, photoshopping. You know, he created the idea of Photoshop.
Yeah, that's crazy. All right, how much longer we got, Scott?
I don't know how long we've been at this.
I don't know. I don't have a watch. I have a...
I guess we got about 15 minutes left. We start about 6:15.
Yeah. What do you think about all this stock market nonsense?
Okay,
funny business.
Let me see if I can explain this. See, what happened is that somebody had like a pound of weed. All right? And so, I'm trying to figure out how to say this right.
Are you trying to figure out how to say it right so you can say it tomorrow?
Yeah, I think I got to think about it tomorrow. But I think that nothing really illegal happened, in the sense that it's like I think that people have been coordinating in terms of the stock market since the internet was developed, and even before then by telephone and stuff like that. When in the 80s, if you watch a movie about the 80s that involves the stock market and there's all the stockbrokers on the floor, that's how it was all done back in the day. You know, and they're always on the phone. They're always on the phone or like talking to somebody. It's like
buy.
Yeah, what do I buy? What do I sell now? And so forth. And so there's been communication and coordination when it comes to stocks for a long, long time. And so all of a sudden saying, hey, we don't like the idea that people can communicate about the stock stuff. And it's like, are you kidding me? The whole shorting thing is like communications, you know, and coordination over stocks. You know, all these hedge funds and stuff like that, they've been doing that for a long, long time. And I don't think there's anything illegal about what anybody did. If everybody just wanted to say, hey, let's screw these guys, I mean, it's hilarious. It's a hilarious flash mob. It's a digital flash mob. Yeah. That's what it is.
With real life consequences.
You know, but unfortunately, those people who are part of that flash mob are willing to throw that money away in order to make a point. Mm-hmm. And I get that. I don't think there's anything illegal about that. I think it's ridiculously hilarious. And yeah, screw those rich guys. I get that. However, you know,
I mean, and won't them having to sacrifice that money ultimately help the market?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so, I mean, I don't. That's
so they're fucking over the hedge fund.
Well, they're just trying to make a point.
Yeah. They're
throwing money away to make a point.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine. You know, if you want to throw money away, it's like making a plaque and taking it to D.C. What a waste of money and time. So, I mean, it's. I think it's hilarious, but I don't think that the government or any big tech companies should be saying to people is like, we're not going to allow anybody to buy this stock anymore, because I think that's illegal.
Yeah.
You know, that's illegal. I mean, it's still a marketplace.
Yeah.
And I think that the idea
that's not the free market at that point.
That's right. It's not the free market at that point. And people have been, you know, they're all about this idea of censorship all over the internet. And we've been talking about it. We've been talking about it for 4 years about people getting shut down over the internet, people getting canceled, people canceled, like Gavin McInnes, Alex Jones, Steven Crowder, and so forth. All these people getting like blacklisted in terms of algorithms and the internet and the internet providers, the big players of the internet. And now a big tech company tells people is like what stocks you can and can't buy. You know, that's socialist, man. It's like, hey, you can't buy that because too many people are buying that. You know, you can't do that. I think that's illegal when it comes to a free enterprise. And I think that's the only crime.
It's like they're saying you can't spam the market. Because that's almost what it is. It's like a spam almost.
Well, the point is that all those people who are willing to throw that money away just to make a point
are entitled to do so.
They are entitled to do so, but it's a financial middle finger at those people who try to make money on this one particular transaction that they have made hundreds of times before. Mm-hmm. Shorting stock, you know, it's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen. It's happened the day before. It's just on this one time they're getting screwed, and because they're scared that this may happen again or over time, and therefore cut into their bottom line, which is their profit. they're leaning on these big tech companies. They're having their CEO call their CEO and say, hey, we're losing money hand over fist. You need to do something about this. And they're complying with these big money people. And that, I think, is the crime.
No, yeah. It's definitely illegal. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's a case.
Absolutely.
There's definitely a case for
Absolutely. That. And I think that people are not going to look realistically at Section 230 of the Communication Decency Act and try to reform it until, I think they weren't going to do that until this happened. And I think that because of this whole GameStop stock thing, it's because that happened, I think people are going to start talking about it more in terms of the way big tech regulates the way we use the internet. All right? Because there's no stockbrokers on the floor anymore. It's just a bunch of people who have cell phones, who can trade from their desktop every single day. Everybody has access to that market now. And they can do this digital flash mob, just to screw the man. And because the hedge fund managers are losing money, and they went to college with the guy who's a hedge fund manager over there, or the guy at Robinhood or something like that, he can call them up and say, you need to stop these people from trading because they're cutting into my bottom line. We can't call those guys because we didn't go to Yale with him. All right?
I heard that Ben Bernanke was an employee at Robinhood.
I don't know who that is or care.
I'm
sorry for spitting at you.
He's a big-time economist. He was also the head of the Federal Reserve.
Oh, yeah. Federal Reserve. Well, I think there's a really good reason why the whole deficit thing has never been addressed. It's like a lot of people say we need to cut the deficit, but it's still going up. I've been hearing that shit since the 80s, And so
who do we owe that money to? China?
Different people.
Everybody?
It's basically ourselves. People will make fun of China for manipulating their currency. But I think they do it because, we do it with interest rates. And so it's like, so when it comes to the way they loan money, the way banks loan money, you got to watch the interest rate. And so we kind of, private organizations, I should say, they control our monetary value, our currency value through interest rate. China just kind of basically reset. That's how they do it. So, yeah.
Thanks for explaining the economy.
I'll figure out a metaphor for tomorrow. I want to use drugs. What else is a good thing to compare it to when you talk about a market? Simile?
Yeah.
It is a simile. It's more of a simile.
Do you use like or as?
Well, it's more. I want to compare the stock market as like a regular market. Like you go to the store. Anyway, I'll figure it out. I want to go home tonight and
you'll figure it out.
I'll try to figure it out before my show tomorrow.
It's like an algebraic word problem.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the point when it comes to when you're a writer or something like that. You want to get a joke or you want to get a metaphor or simile. Perfectly correct. You got to sit and think about it in privacy. I can't sit here on the spot with you talking at me and focus.
I'll be quiet.
We can't both be while I'm thinking. I'm meditating. No, I'm not seriously not. I need to think of it because it's a little bit more complicated because you got to borrow. I want to use drugs as an example because you're more likely to be fronted, cash or drugs, than you would be in a regular market.
It's a drug allegory.
Yeah, you can't say it's like, can I borrow, what these apples will be worth tomorrow or something. You can't do that at a grocery store. That's why I think drugs would be.
I'll gladly give you $1 Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe I could do that. Wimpy, use a Popeye. Simile. Simile. I want to go with simile.
If you're using like or as,
what is simile? Alex Trebek.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
This episode of This Is Not a Scottcast was brought to you by cancer.
Oh.
Womp
Brought
womp.
to a screeching halt.
Wow. Are we done?
No. Let's bring it back. We shouldn't finish.
How do you want to bring it back?
How should we bring it back, EK?
I think Cobra has taken over the world.
Oh, right.
All these people with masks. I don't know. I keep waiting for Joe Biden to come out with a hood.
He's
and
not
starts,
a true American hero.
because I mean, he is one step from just keeping on those S's just a little bit longer.
Yeah. If Joe Biden comes out in the hood, though, it's going to be a white one.
No, it'd be a blue hood with a red cobra on it, and it'd be like, "This I command."
It's going to be a white robe with a red cross on it. Him and
Kamal
are going to come out with Crime Bill 2.0.
It'd be like a World War II helmet with a reflective face shield.
Who's in his cabinet?
Who's in his cabinet? I don't care. It's a bunch of good old boys from the Obama administration.
Good old boys.
Well, people are like, it's like, oh,
is Hillary in the cabinet?
I think she's out of it. I think her health is probably taking a turn for the worse.
Oh, Joe's fine.
I think his health is fine because he's always like saying like, oh, I can do push-ups, stuff like that. So I think his health is fine. I think his mind is given out, and I think Hillary's body is given out because women their bones degenerate.
He's definitely a little bit senile, man. He reminds me of my grandpa before he moved into the nursing home.
Yeah.
He's definitely got a taste of the dementia.
Yeah, but I also know that the presidency is. I mean, if it can survive Trump, it can survive Biden. So
yes.
And I think that's a lot of what people don't understand about America is that the whole time Trump was in office, I was just like, let's let this buffoon. Let me rephrase. Let's let this baboon loose in the White House, see what happens. And we got pretty much what we expected. And so I think a lot of people were sick of it. It's like, hey, you wrecked the White House so many times. Let's just get somebody like an old house cat. It's just gonna take naps in the sun.
His fucking rhetoric and his ego and his just stupid shit that came out of his mouth was.
He's gone. He's gone.
True.
Fuck him. I never liked him. All right.
That's true.
I don't.
We're talking about yesterday. This is
the only reason I liked him was because he was everyone was angry at him instead of me.
Right.
It was like why he was the bigger target. He was the big fat bullseye, and I was in the third ring.
Do you think things are going to calm down as far as the degrees of political division in the country?
People need to stop talking to each other on the internet. If you and I only interacted via Facebook, we may unfriend each other.
Right.
And it's just because when social media first started, a lot of that happened, especially once politics became one of the most common topics that is discussed on social media. Because I'm an intelligent guy, and a lot of people I hung with throughout my life are intelligent people. And once we all started fracturing to one party or another, it all kind of became the most caustic form possible on the internet. Somebody sits there, they do this, whether it's right or left of the aisle. Somebody will get on Facebook and do this rant. I just want to say something about this and this and this and this. And I have a friend who I went to high school with, and she was a teacher for a while, and then she got married and didn't have to work anymore. Good for her. Or I probably got another better paying job. But when she quit teaching, she went on this big, long, 3-paragraph rant about what's wrong with the education system these days. And I was like, oh, and she's conservative like me. And so I was like, yeah, I could dig that and stuff like that. And there's a bunch of dislikes and angry faces to it because, she wasn't on board with what's going on in the education system today. And that's a whole other hour I can rant about. All right. And so and there were people who was like, I'm going to unfriend you for this and stuff like that. And a lot of that stuff was going on around that time where people was like, because your opinion is different than mine, or their response to something that you said like that, they would unfriend them, And so, and you'd see this happen a lot, where people is like, if you're a friend sitting there talking to somebody, you can have a debate, but if you're sitting there just in line at Kroger or something like that, do we have Krogers up here?
Sure.
Okay. If you're in line at We's, and you're sitting there and you're doing this short little, I don't know if you can say that about Trump because he's kind of and it's some quick response you did, and I'm paying for my stuff, and you're gone. Next thing you know, somebody unfriends you. Why? Because you weren't having a face-to-face, real conversation with your friend. Man. With your friend.
Yeah, man.
We're all human beings. And it's I think you're forgive me, non-deep thinking
Fuck yourself.
conspiracy theory nut. Okay?
But
I love you to
work
pieces.
with this guy anymore, man.
I want to hang out with you and play Heroes Unlimited. I wouldn't want to play you.
With that fucking attitude.
I wouldn't want to play you in chess.
Okay.
Is that fair?
No.
I think that that's fair.
I think that I've done a good job disguising my potential.
Absolutely. And I think somebody like you could shine in a role-playing game. To the beer.
Yeah, I'll let you drink my beer. I'm going to play a role-playing game with you.
You don't have to.
Fucking say mean things about me.
You know I'm going to, right?
Embarrass me in front of my new friends.
I don't. You know I'm going to keep doing
Nirvana's
this.
a good band.
It's socially relevant. It's not a good band. The Beatles are an okay band. They are far more socially
Queen
relevant.
is socially relevant. It
Absolutely.
was the 80s. Everyone was gay.
I don't remember being gay in the 80s. But
That's the thing. There's so much cocaine floating around. Nobody remembers.
I don't remember
the 80s.
cocaine in the
I
80s.
just remember staring into a mirror.
I remember a lot of fishing and swimming at the lake.
A lot of self-reflection.
Weird guys at the dock house.
Could we bring it back? Strange men at the dock house. Strange men at the pier.
I don't know. It depends on like who's laughing right now. I mean, do we have a number of live viewers right now?
7 people watch this podcast, and they're all on suicide watch.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Don't do it. There's a national suicide hotline. I guarantee you, write a book. Before you kill yourself, make a suicide note that is a 3-novel series. All right?
Or delete all your
1,000,
social media
1,000,
accounts.
yes. Delete all your social media accounts and talk to people like face to face.
Go outside, read a book.
Boy, I wish people would do that more. It's disconnecting.
Finger fuck somebody.
Yeah, finger banging. Man, I miss that.
Consensually finger fuck somebody.
I miss finger banging. I miss finger banging more than blowjobs.
Really?
Yeah.
It's the feel. It's just.
Well, it's
It's the scientist in you.
I love giving pleasure. Like a woman having an orgasm is like the most sexy thing ever.
And you gotta use your fingers to give a woman an orgasm. Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I have more luck that way.
Fingers don't come. I'll give you that.
Well, I'm going to do my part. I mean, you commit to something. That's why you don't want to get drunk with a girl. If you're too sober to if you have to be somewhat sober. It's like once you blow, you can't just roll over and go to sleep.
I have there's like a happy point that I have that's like, if I drink this amount, I don't know what it is, but if I drink a certain amount, I have
constantly changing.
Infinite penis, right? Like,
okay,
I can have
yeah.
infinite erection, right, and just fuck forever.
But
if I drink a little bit under or over that amount, I have dead penis.
Wellbutrin. I was on an antidepressant for a little while called Wellbutrin. Took forever to jerk off.
That sucks.
Forever.
You just time yourself.
No, at some point you said, I should be getting some sort of enjoyment out of this.
I can't believe I have
I'm good and ready to go, but I'm kind of bored. I kind of want to read a book now.
Yeah. Shouldn't have to go through 3 episodes of the Justice League just to. Come on.
You shouldn't have to put in a second 2-hour-long porn DVD.
Yeah, exactly. You need to love yourself more, Scott.
I'm all right.
Okay. You want to smoke cigarettes?
Yes. Should we say goodbye to everybody? I want to remind you, go over to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio, or just search for me on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Search for Shock Monkey Radio.
Guys, subscribe. Check out all of Scott's stuff. Check out Scott vs. Scott podcast.
All Scott stuff, too.
February 13th, I'll be at Gore Melts. It's a gourmet artisan sandwich shop, and we're going to be doing some comedy with Brian Kearns. It's going to be fucking hilarious. DJ Tony B is going to be there. We're going to do the damn thing. So I promise to have more life about me then when I do that. Okay, Clark Kent. Look at the...
It's in green. Damn it.
Silver Surfer.